Hello and welcome to Hooded Horses Showcase at PAX East 2023. My name is Antony. I'm the Director of Influencer Relations and Strategy YouTuber HForHavoc. And I'm joined by Norris Merk, who may be much more recognizable as Twitch Streamer Kormakr.
Greetings, everyone.
Today we'll be chatting through the current state of Hooded Horse, from games that have already released, to demos old and new, down to games that we've slated as upcoming. Then we'll dive into the future of Hooded Horse, starting with some new acquisitions to our mix and touching base on games that are still cooking. I'm looking forward to giving the audience the whole gamut of our games. So Norris, you ready to dive in?
Oh, I'm so ready.
Let's do it. All right, so first up we have Against the Storm, which released late last year into early access. What do you think about this one, Norris?
I'm amazed by Against the Storms and its diversity, and because it's a roguelike and you always start your fresh new city with new challenges, and it's always like the cards played out freshly for you and new. It's always this struggle for your new city, for going forward, for figuring out what you have to do, and I really am enjoying it.
Yeah, the roguelite setting of it is what makes it for me, absolutely. And to combine with everything that they've been doing lately, they just announced the modifiers update to make things even more unique and difficult for you. They're actually integrating Twitch into it, so there's new Twitch integration for streamers like you and I. And then not to mention that it's just done very well with both streamers and the audience in general, having sold over 300,000 copies. That's a big accomplishment for an indie game, especially in early access. So I'm super excited to see where it goes, but it is one of the more enjoyable city builders that I've honestly ever gotten to play, and that's saying a lot for a guy who really, really loves city builders.
I think also that the whole approach with these kind of deck building elements of like trying to snack out what kind of city you need or have to build depending on what the map is giving you, just gives it this unique twist. And I think that's what drags the audience in, and I think that's also what the people just love.
Yeah,
for having this diversity.
Absolutely. I think it's just a super, super solid roguelike city builder, as we see right there. And just being able to upgrade your city, to unlock new things, to really, I mean, just that roguelike, it just is the quintessential roguelike city builder, which doesn't really exist in today's world, which is why, again, I think it stands out so much.
Especially with the modifiers now, you just have it for your casual players who just love to play it and hop in, have a few minutes, or maybe an hour ago, and for the hardcore ones who really love a challenge to tweak out the perfect fits of their infrastructure, of how to build up things. And this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning, and there's so much more coming.
There is. Excited. Yes, this is early access, so always keep that in mind, because man alive, have they done a lot. The consistent updates is, I think, another thing that just keeps the community engaged. The fact that most early access games don't achieve the level of updates that Against the Storm does, and it does a really good job of making you come back with every new update.
And on top of that, I also love that they're including the community a lot. So some of the factions are voted by them. I heard rumors they are already working on something new, that there's votes going on what should be the next kind of race implementing into those. They all feel unique, have their own kind of needs and mechanics at play. And again, it is just the beginning, and I'm just excited for the road ahead.
Me too. All right, now we have Manor Lords, probably one of the most hotly anticipated city builders that hasn't yet to release.
I think you're quite right with one of the most anticipated one, because everywhere I read, everywhere I see comments talking about Manor Lords, I'm excited to finally, and soon, hopefully someday, get my hands on it.
Right? Yeah. So if you took part in the demo last October, that was a very, very successful run for the developer, Slavic Magic. He was able to get just tons and tons of feedback that have really, really improved the game. Most of the footage you're seeing here is well over a year old, simply because there's a lot of features we want to wait to show off. But just the implementation of new housing districts and how they operate with plots of land, the new farming styles, there's so much going on with this game that honestly this trailer doesn't quite do it justice, but it still gives us the anticipation and the things that we can look forward to with it.
Exactly. I love how seamlessly and organic everything feels, like putting out your plot crops and deciding where your field goes, building up your management and resource selling places to kind of create a needs and greed kind of section there to see what kind of wares you want to sell, bringing in this merchant that are coming to get some sort of coin in, and then of course, besides city building and all this management and strategical layers, and seeing how your city evolves and becomes bigger, more beautiful, and nicer. Also, the military part is playing quite immensely good on this.
Yeah, and I mean, we didn't get to take part in any of that. That's still relatively unknown as for how it has developed and how it plays. Because there's the military aspect. And again, the best part about the military aspect is it's not just like other strategy games where you're just pulling an army out of nowhere where losses are meaningless. Instead, your army literally comes from your peasants. So if you send 20 of your peasants out to a skirmish against a fellow duke or something, and all of them die, it's not just like, oh well, I'll just rebuild. No, you've lost 20 of your people who had jobs as farmers, as woodworkers, as whatever it was, and now you have to repopulate and come back and fill those voids, which could have some pretty detrimental things and set you back with your settlement.
Or maybe even kill it off, because if Peter cannot tend to the farm anymore, there will be no crop at the end of the year, and there will be no food.
That's exactly it.
Might be a back-breaking situation. But as we just saw, there might be also the possibilities beside the militia, some mercenary groups to hire for coin that can protect you. Well, we'll see if those are good to have. Maybe they just switched aside for the higher bidder.
Right, yeah, like those are the things that are still relatively unknown, the mechanics-wise. But you also eventually be able to recruit Knights Retinue to really focus on, more elite soldiers, as well as just being able to modify your army and really tweak it and have it customizable. While still relatively small, we're not talking about Total War levels of 10,000 troops. These battles are still relatively small clashes, but I also think that makes them more authentic and really has just more power to them. Man, it looks good. I'm so excited for this game.
I love also the fact with the 3D camera that they implemented, you just kind of take a stroll through a city and enjoy the view of it. Oh man, Manor Lords, we're excited.
So looking forward to it. All right, Norris, you want to take this one?
Of course, Xenonauts 2, who knows it? Maybe from the old school UFO inspiration XCOM. Aliens attack your lands and you need to take care of that. Turn-based strategy, very in-depth mechanics from covering angles, crouching, shooting over your shoulders, fellas, and deep dive exploration, and also building up your base, so to say, where you have to decide what kind of settlements you want in there, what kind of satellites, anti-UFOs, barracks, etc., to specialize your place to, well, suit your needs that you need against the warfare with the aliens. As we can see here, also a lot of little weapons that you can choose, alter, decide what you want to bring with you, and just make your squad the most efficient one that you can with the resources available. And I love that everything is very automatically generated. The maps, depending on where you land, they present the mission exactly. If there is a mission saying that there is some alien activity in an high dense city, you will see a lot of buildings, you will have elevations where you can go up and down and have to take care and cover all your angles, because Xenonauts is not only quite dangerous in terms of the enemies attacking you from all angles. So
it's very brutal. Yep. All right, next up we have Sons of Valhalla, and quite honestly, I should let the Viking in the room take this one, but I'll let him take the last one. Sons of Valhalla is a very cool and unique 2D side-scroller game where you have essentially lost your love. It was taken by another Viking, Jarl, and so you've come to England looking to pillage, to raid, to build up your bases, and then move along and try and tackle the enemies. Now, one of the things that I really like about this game is it is RPG-like. You are in control of yourself, while also being able to command your armies and your troops. It's got a lot of unique features to it, including building up of resources, you've got upgrades, you've got different formations that you can allow, and then of course, as you see here, things like siege buildings, because you're going to need to siege enemy fortresses to take them on. This also had a demo, and you can still play the demo right now, actually. Very, very enjoyable game that I think if you are remotely a fan of pixelated art or 2D side scrollers, that this is going to be a game that you're going to want to try out. And the demo only included one level. There's going to be multiple levels, multiple seasons, many different types of enemies and troops.
Me as a Viking especially, I'm looking forward for this jam. I love how pixel graphics can look so seamlessly nice and well presented. The devs did an outstanding job here with putting up a scenery with the light effects, little particles, little details floating around in the backgrounds, in the fronts, in the water. And I heard a lot of people trying to compare this to Two Crowns, and I always say, imagine Two Crowns, but you are at the wheel. You're in the front. You're fighting with your soldiers together, shoulder by shoulder. You scream at them, shield wall. They get information. They protect you of Ellers blowing up and down. You have your upgradings working in the settlements. You can decide what you want to have, what you want to bring to the front line, and together built with this, well, lovely love story of trying to find your lost loved ones and figure out where she is. Well, up next we have Terra Invicta. Whew, not only global politics, but also an alien threat that you have to deal with. Using your agents to try to figure out what you want to do and influence on the world, on your planet, and then also is the alien problem at hand. Antony, what do you think? Would you side with the aliens? Would you fight them? Would you pray to them? What would you do in this situation?
Man, there's so many options, but when I played, I always resisted them because there's just something about an alien force attacking my homeland. I don't agree with it. So, but you can if you want to. You can side with the aliens, you can sabotage everyone. Heck, you can even just say, I'm going to boot scoot and get completely out of the galaxy on your own spaceship. The possibilities are quite literally endless. And not to mention that Terra Invicta is in early access, and it also just received a relatively big update that added a bunch of new events to the thing, a bunch of new art, and also expanded space combat beyond what was originally anticipated when it first released. So there is still lots of fresh content going into this game, and there's always a reason to pick it up and start playing.
Exactly. So I encourage you, take up the wheel yourself, write the narrative your way. How would you deal with an alien threat in front of our doors, starting in the year 2022, moving forward? How would you make the future of our world?
Now, this is a little more advanced into the future. This is Nebulous Fleet Command, and it just received the Protectorate update, and that's what this trailer is going over. The Protectorate update involves the OSP, which is a kind of rebel faction that splintered from the only other faction in the game currently. And essentially what they have is no navy. So they have to commandeer civilian vessels and other things like that, and use those as best they can and retrofit them to become warships. There's a lot that goes on with Nebulous Fleet Command. It is what I would call a hardcore space fleet simulator.
I think you're right with Space Sim Simulator, especially with all these race mechanics, with satellites mechanics, seeing your enemy or not seeing them, but depending on your sensors, trying to min-max every kind of tool and option and computer on your board, depending on if you activate long range, if you activate mid range. It is complex, lovely, and from, as we see here, piercing, penetrating shells to cargo base throwing out to indirect and capture up some rockets coming at you. And I have not seen a space sim with so much depth of strategy and decision-making in terms of your naval, let's call it space naval combat.
Yes, absolutely. It's a wonderful game. It is a very high threshold in terms of a learning curve, but from what I've seen and what I've done myself, it is absolutely fantastic, and it will provide a different experience every time you play. And man, the Protectorate update does a lot to enhance this game. There's already been a few major updates as well, but this one really takes the cake so far.
Up next, we have Clanfolk, and very Scottish-inspired colony builder, or I would more call it a dynasty builder, because you start without a family and build up your dynasty, try to survive the harsh lands, try to survive from day one going on forwards, finding your food, establishing your household, figure out how different things work. As you pick up sticks, you pick up stones, you unlock recipes to figure out how to use them, and from there you progress some sort of a like stone and stick age to a little more sophisticated civilization. And recently we got some animals put into it, cats, and the cats of it was very, very interesting.
Cats was very interesting indeed. But yeah, there's also been there is upcoming going to be a the hunter and the hunted kind of update, which involves dogs and deer. So it's interesting that this is technically labeled as a peaceful city builder or a peaceful simulation game, simply because there is no external warfare, things of that nature. But it is by no means peaceful, because winter sucks and it will hurt you and it will kill you and it will be difficult dealing with things like fire and things of that such. Peaceful is a very, very loose term, I would say.
Oh, definitely, especially looking at that fire. That can end up your plans quite fast. I also love the fact that the families are growing, have their own agendas, have their own traits and abilities, and grow from very young bubbies to very old people, as we can just see here, where they buried their elders. And just makes you feel like being part of this community that tries to survive and evolve. What a gem. Clanfolk.
It really is. All right, we have Old World. Old World was actually one of our first games that was released, and just this last January, the Sacred and the Profane, was the latest DLC, and it essentially adds the development of all the major world religions. You're able to go into Judaism, Zoroastrianism, Christianity even. It adds, kind of the heads of all of those faiths as characters that you can bring into your court, that you can interact with, and not to mention just loads and loads and loads of events that really just add a ton of flavor into the game.
I also love the game is focused more on your ruler per se than the faction itself that you play, where you try to build your family up. You have a lot of decisions making, and therefore the roleplay plays out like, I don't know, you find your daughter interacting with some low peasant guy and they look like they're having some affair going on. Will you intervene that? Will you not? If you do, maybe your daughter starts hating you and starts plotting against you and therefore ends your run because she, well, takes care of you. And there's so many aspects and events at play that just make this, well, kind of classical 4X game to such a unique experience every time you play it.
Absolutely, it does.
Up next, we have Heart of the Machine, and I'm very excited about that. Finally, the places reverse. Imagine Matrix, but you are the Matrix. You are a sentient AI and are able to take over, and humans are your resource.
Falling Frontier is probably one of my most personal anticipated ones. The developers actually hired a new 3D artist, and that 3D artist is creating something like this mining barge that we're seeing, which may not look like much, but your mining barges are crucial for your economy. And I gotta say, this mining barge looks absolutely fantastic. And the 3D artist is actually working on creating a whole fleet of new ships to really bring Falling Frontier out of the possibility of saying it's just a reskin of something, or it's just tagging along to really, truly becoming its own game.
I mean, look at the attention for the detail there. The flaps popping open, the probes. I think there's some of the probes coming out there. All this kind of seamlessly movement and effects on your ship, just feel it to make it feel alive, like there is something going on instead of just, you click on your ship, you click on the resource and you just see your resource counter going up. There's stuff happening. It feels organic. It feels alive, as I just said.
Yeah, the organic alive, it's in the details that Falling Frontier really comes out. In the trailer at full blast, you'll hear radio chatter. So the mining barge is pulling up to an asteroid, and you hear radio chatter saying, hey, by the way, we have a ping of an enemy patrol within your vicinity. We'll keep an eye out. Or, it's just that interaction and the sense that alive, there's smaller ships always coming around. Your mining barge will send out small ships to go gather material and bring them in. Even when you're at your docking bay, you see things physically being loaded up just as an animation. And even your military battles, which will take place on the planet, you'll have at least some form of animation to let you know that something is going on. And so it's just that feeling of being alive, and again, that Expanse style space RTS that just really, really draws me in personally. And I am very, very excited to see the new warships, the new other civilian ships, and to see how unique this game can truly be.
Wow, what a lineup of games we have currently at HForHavoc. Now, we'll look at the future of the rest of the games that we're gonna have in store for you. Keep in mind, though, these games are still in development and a work in progress, but we're still just excited to see their completion.
First up, we have Breachway, which is one of our new acquisitions. This is a deck builder spaceship warfare game where your cards that you have in your deck determine what you can do damage-wise to enemies. You can target certain pieces of their ship. You can overheat their ship, so it literally cooks everyone on the inside. There's not much else going on right at the moment, but this is one that we wanted to hit 100%.
I'm very excited about this, especially the specific targeting and the deck building aspect and the visuals. I mean,
they look great.
It looks amazing. Blacksmith Master up next is an upcoming and fresh game under the hood. And imagine you're running a blacksmith during the medieval times. You need to find your resources, mine them, figure out your infrastructure, forge the items, and then of course sell them. And maybe some grand adventures come by and thank you later on.
There's lots of new mechanics. You can build your own mines, hire your own workers to develop your own ores, and again, have more adventures based on your weapons, which will of course give you prestige and benefits to level up your forge. Imagine having a 5-story blacksmith forge. That's pretty darn cool to me. All right, next up is Beyond These Stars. This is a new game as well. We really like our new games that begin with a B, but this is a city builder on the back of a giant space whale. Can't say there's anything quite like that, but what we have here is just a really cool, unique progression, hex-based city builder on the backside of a whale. And what do you think, Norse?
I'm very curious where this whole story progression will go from there, and if the universe around you will influence your building depending on where you are at the moment right now in the galaxy, flying around your whale. And of course, if you can have this kind of friendly symbiosis with the whale or exploit its back. I don't know, we'll see. Up next, we have Espiocracy. Imagine the end of World War II. Everything is at ruins, trying to rebuild, and you are in the shadows. You are basically playing sides of the espionaging agency. You have a multitude of places to choose of where you want to start and build and influence the geopolitical surface by deciding or influencing or bribing or blackmailing whoever you want, and kind of writes or rewrites history starting from the end of World War II. What do you think of this so far?
I love it. I love the idea of an espionage game, and you're not just leading just like the CIA or the KGB. You can play as any of the nations that will launch and govern their intelligence agency. So there's going to be a lot of flavor here. There's going to be a lot of awesome things like proxy wars that you can start. You can sabotage the space program, or you could fuel your own. There's so many options to do here, and I'm really, really excited to see where development goes with this one.
I mean, we have 74 playable countries overall, and with all these options and events going on, I'm very curious what kind of stories will be written or rewritten as the game comes out and the players will have at it. And I can wait to see if, I don't know, maybe Middle Europe becomes the grand nation because people were able to, well, turn the tides, so to say.
All right, next up is Fragile Existence, and this is a game that combines two very different aspects. You almost have a space combat, space warfare system combined with something that is not unlike Supreme Commander. In regards to, you are in control of the last fleet of humanity. If this fleet dies, humanity goes extinct. And there is something that you don't know that is hunting you relentlessly. So you are going to have to Battlestar Galactica, as I would say. You're going to have to jump to a new system. You're going to have to land on a planet, find some resources, build up what you can, and then try and get out of there before that alien force or whatever force it is catches up to you. What do you think about this one?
But just look how seamlessly the movement between space and planet landing is going on. I just love the fact that you can finally have your impactful space battles, and also the whole surface structures and battles are going on. Look at that. Look how amazingly it looks.
It looks good.
Touch grounds. Oh man, I'm very excited to play these two mechanics that play at the terrain plane and outside of the planet itself, fighting, surviving, and scavenging. Very neat concepts. I'm excited. Up next, we have Capital Command, remaining in the sci-fi genre. Imagine finally not these typical kind of small-scale dogfights that you often see there with your little ships flying around, but a huge capital ship, an RPG, sandboxy sci-fi game where you upgrade your ship, you take on missions, you are leading the narrative on this, and having amazing, as it said, realistical combats, using a massive ship with huge battles to rip and destroy whatever comes in your way. And I'm very, very excited to finally get my hands on the joystick behind my capital ship. What do you think?
You'll definitely probably want a joystick as well. With as realistic combat as can pretty much be had, you're going to have to move your guns into the same projectile. You're going to have to use your radar and your sensors to find and track certain targets, and you're going to have to predict where things are going to be, because it's not just enough to fire away and it auto locks on. These ships are moving just like you, so it's very easy to miss. It's also very easy for you to dodge. Well, I say very easy. You have the possibilities to dodge, and it's just a really good realistic simulator. Moving into the, I wouldn't say realistic simulator, rather you're going above and beyond. Fata Deum is the god game genre coming back to life. Having played Black and White, all those series, it's been such a long time since we had a god game, and Fata Deum is looking to very much scratch that itch. You are a god vying against other gods to try and sway the people as much as possible. You can do this by influencing their dreams. You can fulfill their needs. You can do all that stuff to convert the population. And then, depending on what kind of god you want to be, you can either say, hey, let's create a peaceful, prosperous utopia, or potentially an army of undead to go after other people.
What kind of god would you be?
I tend to be a benevolent god. I tend to be a god for good. Although I have been pushing my boundaries, and I may go for a little bit of an evil one with this one.
You're here. I mean, I'm excited. Look at that. Opening up the doors to oblivion, calling up the creatures of nightmares. I would be down for that, to raise some havoc and destruction around.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think what's more unique about this game is how you influence your people. Of course, they have needs and wants, but they do have dreams and aspirations as well. And so just in the day-night cycle, you are in the daytime trying to gather as much worship resource as possible. So in the nighttime, you can fulfill their dreams, or you can give them commands. You can command them to say, hey, I want you to build this, or I want you to go here and do that. And so you are commanding them, but they also do have a degree of freedom in whether or not they want to do that. And that, again, is based on your personality. You have different actions depending on whether you want to be a good god or an evil god, or, a lustful god or an envious god. There's so many different options and ways that you can go. The important part to remember is that you're not the only god here also doing all of the things.
Well, I'm excited what kind of god you will be in the end. If you will
Absolutely.
lead your civilization to prosperity, or doom them and be a Lich King. Up next, we have The Way of the Wrath, and finally, an RPG mixed with strategy elements that takes it to the Bronze Age. Not your typical, Greek antique or your typical sci-fi, cyberpunk settings. Finding something way, way back. And you have to manage your decisions as a chieftain. What do you do? When you scavenge? What kind of rations you're gonna give your people, and bring them through the harsh of Mother Nature, and of course other tribes trying to capture and take part or take away of what you have. And depending on what you decide, where your journey goes, and what kind of decisions you make, you will have your unique narrative going on and unique storyline, mixed with a lot of, city building and colony mechanics.
Yep. So this is almost a survival game, because you do have a rather large tribe that's coming to try and kill you and wipe out your entire clan. So the idea is that you use your narrative, you use your RPG aspect to build up your allies, to find strengths and weaknesses, and to then build up your fortress to repel this coming attack as best you can. You have finite resources. You can't do everything. So what do? Do you focus on your own small tribe and build up, or do you try and bring other people in but not be able to fortify your citadel quite as much? There's a lot of options going on here, and again, as this game is heavily in development, those options can change and develop as time goes on. But regardless, combining the RPG with strategy, with city building, and having just a really solid Bronze Age era narrative, I think we're going to have a really solid hit with this one. Next up, we have Alliance of the Sacred Sons, and this takes the RPG strategy aspect and puts it way in the future. Way in the future. In fact, you are essentially the last emperor of the galaxy, of the universe. And if you die, the entire universe plunges into eternal darkness. That's a little bit of pressure there. But essentially what you have here is kind of a top-level RPG strategy game. You're not down on the surface of the earth influencing things or the surface of planets. You are the top-level emperor who's giving out commands to everyone down below you. You have finite resources with your orders, you have finite resources in what you can develop and build, and also you have parties and other factions that are wanting to kill you because they want it for themselves, regardless of what they think those consequences are. This is a very deep narrative story that has a lot of mechanics that play together very well, and we are very eager to see how it develops. It's come a long ways just in the last year alone, and I think it has a ton of potential.
And especially on the storytelling, because depending on what your emperor should look like or present himself like, the whole run will be different for you. I'm excited for it. Up next we have Mars Tactics. Imagine, again, a sci-fi scenario. You're colonizing or making Mars a profitable surface, you're mining in there, but, well, the people working there are not really getting maybe enough pay, not enough rations. The companies are, well, taking an advantage of there, and finally the workers have enough and are fighting back. You can decide if you want to play with the company or as side of the workers, fighting through turn-based combats, very XCOM-like here, with very unique mechanics at play. Finally some fresh winds in this turn-based combats. As you can see, somebody is taking cover while being shot at, and because he was taking cover and being shot at so often, he got an ability for being a dodge of a bullet guy. And therefore,
yeah, I think that's one of the cool things about this game that make it stand above the rest, is that you do have personalities, you have traits that evolve throughout the campaign, and that always ties things close to your heart. If you have a guy who can dodge everything, but one guy just gets a lucky shot and kills him, you've lost a really crucial unit that has a story, that has a backlog of information that really just brings him close to your heart. But again, do you want to be capital or labor? Do you want to fight for the company and eradicate the rebellion, or do you want to go elsewhere? And with that last trailer, that wraps up our time discussing how Hooded Horse is currently doing and what you can look forward to in the future. I want to thank all of you for watching this video. Your support's greatly appreciated, and a huge shout out to every single one of our developers, as we at Hooded Horse could not do a single bit of this without their hard work and dedication to some awesome indie games.
That is absolutely true, and I also want to let you know that every game that you saw there is out there for wish list. You can go out there, note what your favorite game was that you saw on the video, and click that wish list. Helps out a lot.
Absolutely, it does. Well, thank you, Norris, for hanging out with me. Thank you for being part of our PAX showcase. We at Hooded Horse hope you enjoyed watching.
In the end, the blight came. We started anew in these ruthless, untamed lands. We built foundations for what we hope to call home. May fortune favor us this time. We couldn't save all, but there was no time for mourning. We had to search for food, but the woods are strange. We disturbed the forest and angered its spirits. To live again in harmony, we sent our bravest to appease them. By the grace of the Queen, our village thrived. But as we progressed, the forest fought back. In the end, the blight came. But we will keep the fire burning, no matter the cost.
Love, the strongest feeling of all. But what would happen if someone tried to take this feeling away from you? What would you do for the one you love the most?
is a new world to come.
Tell me your orders.
We'll make our appeal.
Bringing them on board.
Our associates are now in charge.
We've gained significant support.
Headed there now. We are go for liftoff.
What is science, if not a consensus of trial and error?
The war against the aliens can't be won on Earth alone.
Constantine, I know you've got your hands full, so I'll be brief. Things are moving a lot faster here than we expected, and the other systems are still dragging their feet. The gate blockade is established, so there's that at least. I've done my best to get you everything you asked for. Hopefully it's enough. Hopefully it's not needed. I can't imagine how hard this is for you. Almost 40 years in the fleet, and now you're fighting the same spacers you trained. I know why you're really doing it, even if you won't admit it, but regardless, your home owes you an impossible debt. None of us here know how this is going to end, but at the very least, there's one thing I am sure of. I'm glad we've got you on our side.
is common knowledge. Espionage agents are operating everywhere.
This is a map of divided Germany, west and east, free and communist.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
19 channel traffic, 8 special missions, 4 air evac, and 2 embassy flights.
Target coordinates S1 uniform. Down copy. Friendly northeast for 1 kilometer.
Enemy down.
God game genre is back. Do you desire infinite power? You shall wield the power of a god. And you shall lead humanity any way you choose. Will you support the founding families by working good wonders? Encourage them to build farms and schools so they can thrive as their settlements grow? Or will you rule with an iron fist as an evil tyrant, awaken the bloodthirst of mortals, and incite the flames of war to expand your lands with all the means at your command? Will you create a golden age of endless festivity? Inspire your followers to savor all pleasures and rejoice in divine intoxication? Or will you use and deceive your minions with lies and malicious plans? You could promise them an afterlife of sorts. At last, raise a monument to your ultimate triumph. As thousands praise your glory, you will finally realize your fate. With the power of a god, who will you become?
The Emperor and your celestial empire begs for your attention, heading toward extinction. To save your people, it will require all the strength of your house, your ancestry, and your own. It will be a lifetime of work, growth, and personal development. No decision is trivial. Plan ahead. Use your time wisely. Find people, good and wise, as ruling vast kingdoms of constellations cannot be done alone. Shape your alliances. Care for your friends. For the other great houses await your failure. And those who oppose you shall receive nothing but anguish and anger, doomed to be crushed under the heel of your might. Do what is necessary. Revive the glory of your empire.